Welcome to the Optimal IDX Settings for Great SEO webinar. My name is Alan. This is our trimmed down version for you that for those of you who may have missed the webinar, we're going to just run through various points. And if you have any questions, always feel free to send us an email at help@idxbroker.com. So to get started, the first thing we need to look at is taking SEO credit for those IDX broker pages. And so the first thing to do there is we need to go and create a custom subdomain or a CNAME record with our hosting provider. And we do that because the indexing credit is attributed to the domain name, and we'll get into that in more detail later. And once we have that record created, then we're going to configure this with IDX Broker. So our first step is to go and log into our hosting provider. In this case, we're using GoDaddy. And if you're using GoDaddy, that's going to be under this little gear here to manage DNS settings. Now, this will be different based on your hosting provider and which service you're using. This will be different across HostGator, Bluehost, 1&1, but the process itself is pretty much the same. So what we're looking at is we've got a bunch of zone files, basically records with our hosting provider. And we want to set up a CNAME, not an A record. An A record will be created if you choose the Add Subdomain feature with most hosting providers, but that's not going to be beneficial to you because IDX Broker can't use that. Instead, you have to use a CNAME record or an alias. And what this effectively does is it says if you go to search.mywebsite.com, then we're going to redirect that traffic to this server. Now, search engines themselves, they don't really care about the subdomain because that just says that this content is underneath my website. So in this case, you can see I have set up the host name to be search, and that points to subdomains.idxbroker.com. The TTL is the default. You don't have to change anything there. If it's not specified, look at any other CNAME records you have or MX records and match them accordingly. You shouldn't see any ill effect from that. So once you have this set up, it takes time to propagate, and that time depends on your hosting provider, how fast they replicate this information out to the various name servers on the internet. Now, in the case of GoDaddy and Bluehost, they've been statistically very fast at this, but it can take anywhere from 15 minutes to 24 hours. So you'll want to double check this with your with various tools. You can also check it with your hosting provider and see if they've actually got that propagated for you. In the case of testing it yourself, you can use a free service called centralops.net. That's centralops.net. And what you'll do is you'll just enter in your custom subdomain dot your website. In this case, we're using wpidx.co. And when I submit that, it's going to tell me what it found, and it says that this is an alias, and it points to subdomains.idxbroker.com. So we're good. Everything's set up, and our next step, as mentioned previously, is to configure this in our IDX Broker account. To do that, we're going to do a couple of things. First, we're going to go and log into our IDX Broker account. We're going to go to Account and then Account Info in the subheader. Now, in here, you'll see a section that says Subdomain/Domain Control. You want to toggle this option to Yes and then enter in your custom subdomain that you want to use. Notice that the rest of the host name over here is spelled out. So it already has the leading dot. So we've got wpidx.co. So if this isn't set up for you, and I can show you what that looks like, we're just going to delete that from here, set it to no, save the changes. So if I come back to this page, it's not set up, and we'll also demonstrate another feature of this. So I'm going to go ahead and open this advanced search page in another tab, and we'll come back to the account information section. So it's not set. We're going to go ahead and set the use custom domain to yes. We're going to type in the word search, and when I click out, it's going to flash green. That lets me know that the system was able to find that it was redirected correctly, that the search host name is a CNAME and it's pointed to subdomains.idxbroker.com. So this is all correct. And now if I hit Save Changes, that's applied. Now you'll notice that this says, .idxbroker.com. Now, this is how it would be by default. So I'm not getting any indexing credit without the custom subdomain. However, I don't need to go and update all of the links on my site. They are completely fine. If I go and visit this page again, you'll notice that it is now search.wpidx.co. This will give me the indexing credit for this page as well as all the other subsequent pages on IDX Broker. So that's going to be your first step, to take SEO credit for your pages. The next thing that we're going to want to look at are the dynamic details pages. So details pages by themselves are dynamic. They have a lot of additional variables that you can add that will further make these pages better for SEO. So you want to customize things such as your URL, your title and meta descriptions, and you're going to want to go and tackle the next thing that we've launched recently, and that is a dynamic subheader. A subheader that will use that listing information and provide that in a way that search engines like and also work great for your users. So we'll touch on that as well. So for this, we're going to go ahead and go back to our IDX Broker account. We're going to navigate to Designs, Pages, and down in here, we're looking for Details pages. And then we want to hover over the preferences for this page, which is going to be the edit link. In here, you can see a sample of some SEO settings that I've already added. Now, take note, we said that we wanted to have a custom URL for these pages. In our case, that's going to be search.wpidx.co/ our MLS ID number / the listing ID number for that particular listing / then our customization. So in this case, I've got the address, the city name, the state abbreviation, and the zip code. Now you can add additional ones by clicking in the field and just selecting them from the list. And you can customize that any way you want. If I wanted my zip code to be before this, I just click and drag and move it over. The other thing to look at is this dynamic title text. This plays a role in a couple of places. So in this case, I'm using the property type that I've been given. Now this could be single family residential, it could be business, it could be rentals, depending on your MLS and the listing that we're looking at. So in this case, I've got, let's just put in residential or single family, but that's not enough. So I want to make this as good as I can. So let's go for property. So this could be single family property for sale in a city at this state with a listing ID. That's great. I've effectively given this page a unique title that only this listing will have. Now, there's going to be a number of similar ones because there's going to be a ton of single family homes in this city in the same state. But the deciding factor here is that listing ID. That makes this title more dynamic and more unique. There's not going to be a duplicate listing ID on my system. In addition to that, the description. So when it comes to getting ranking on search engines, grammar and spelling are important. So you may not want to use the remarks because a lot of agents won't take the time to double check their remarks that they've entered, and you're going to get indexed on those pages as well. Now, I'm using it here just because I need to have somewhat of a dynamic description. Now, you could go through and mimic this remarks as best you can based on the listing information, the state it's in, maybe have a write-up of your own. In this case, I'm just going to use the remarks. Our demo data is pretty dynamic and the details there are pretty lined out. Again, and so we hear this one a lot, and it has to do with keywords. Oh, keywords aren't used anymore, things like that. Well, technically they are. They're used as a ranking method for the rest of the tags you use, including the content on the page. So even though I could put in a whole bunch of keywords, if they don't relate to the information that's being displayed, they're not going to count. They're going to be ignored. So what I'm doing here is we're looking at what information is being supplied by the individual listings themselves. So what's unique about our listings? Well, their listing ID, that sets them apart. That's why we don't have the same ID twice in the same MLS feed. Their address is going to be somewhat unique. That might change, but at least that information is going to match what's on that details page. So with that thought process in mind, this is how I want to tackle it. Now, this is going to be unique to your market. And again, I would stress the fact that you want to be known for your market, the area you work in. So try and build your language and your URLs to match what your audience is looking for, what your clients are actually using your site to search for, or what you know people are looking for in your area as best as you can. Now, do take heed of this, editing your page URL. If you have a new account and you're still kind of getting things set up, now would be a perfect time to go ahead and change this. If you've had an account for a while, I would recommend not changing this, because you're going to have leads who have saved searches or saved properties, and now that details page URL has been changed and their links aren't going to work anymore when they go into their account. There's no way that I would want to change this, a week from now, and I've already had a number of people sign up on my site, and that time frame could be anything. So if you're a new account, you can go ahead and modify this to match whatever you want. But again, if you've had an account for a while, I would leave this alone. Now, the other thing that we mentioned was these title and metas. They're important, and I would take the time to look at the other page preferences. Just about all of the pages on IDX Broker allow some additional settings. So, for instance, the address search, it has SEO settings, but it doesn't have a title or descriptions or keywords. All of this information is coming from your wrapper. And so if this wrapper, if you're just using one at a global level and supplying across your entire site, you're going to end up with duplicate title tags, and you're going to lose ranking because of that. So take the time, go through all the SEO settings in the pages, give yourself some title, descriptions, and keywords that are relevant to that page. So this page being the address page, I need those to match address search criteria. I want to use that kind of language not only in my title, but in my description and in my keywords. I want that content to match. The more it matches, the better my content is, and content is king. So these are just an overview of settings that you can take. Ones that I would pay attention to is definitely in this section. The other thing I mentioned was the subheader. So for subheaders, you'll find that under Designs, Subheaders. Now for the details page, we do need to go and select the pages from this little heading here. And then you'll want to select Details. I'm going to go ahead and clear this out and set it to the default. Alright, so when we're looking at this information, we could go ahead and copy kind of the same stuff that we have for our title tags for details. But if you hold shift and hit the key just to the right of the P key, P as in Paul, you'll get a curly brace. And if you put 2 in, you're going to get a list to select from. So if I said IDX property type, so we'll go property for sale in this city, comma, let's do the state, for, and this is the really cool one, I can put the listing price here. Why would I do that? Well, I'll actually show you here in a second. So you want to highlight that and make it a heading 1 tag. The reason for this is search engines are looking for a unique H1 tag. So if I don't have one in my wrapper and it's not on my details pages, I want to take use of that. I want to get the indexing ranking, that credit, that Google juice for that heading tag. By using a dynamic one, that tag will always be different because it's going to be using the listing information for that property details. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So we've got our search page up. We'll just hit submit here just to get a quick search. And then we're going to go ahead and open up, how about this one? Single family property for sale in Key Biscayne, Florida for $19.4 million. All of this information is above the fold. I didn't have to scroll down to get any listing information. I get to see some photos, and it's all right there as soon as I hit the screen. It's perfect. It's not only great for robots that are crawling your site and indexing this information, but it's great for your clients as well. I already saw a snippet of that information, but if I'm just going next property, previous property, I don't have those results in front of me. If I can get this content to them as fast as possible, they're more likely to be involved and engaged in my website. Now from this, I can also say with one scroll wheel down, we're already getting into the additional information. But that might intrigue them to dig a little deeper. Now, this particular property didn't have a whole lot of description entered, which is great, and it puts in our contact information in this little link. So what does that look like from a robot's point of view? Well, let's go back to our previous property. See, so this one has some information. And let's go ahead and view the page source. This is what the robot sees. This is what Google sees, and this is what we need to take a look at. So up here, as we're coming down, we'll see the title. And remember, we set this in the details page preferences. So single family for sale in Key Biscayne, Florida, and the listing ID. That's pretty unique. Then we have the description, which I said was the remarks concat, or the listing description. And this will match up with what's already on the page. And here, of course, here are our keywords. All nice and simple. Now, when it comes to titles, you don't want a title that's too long because it's going to get chopped off at some point. And that number is going to vary depending on the search engine. Simpler the better, and the more to the point. That's going to get you more of what you're looking for. Now, we had a question come up that asked about open graph tags, or these OG tags. These are used by Facebook. Facebook is going to grab the title, and it uses that for that main portion of when you're sharing the listing. And then it's going to grab this description as well as this image. Now, this image is going to be the first image for the listing. It's going to be the primary photo. So the description that's here is going to match the description on the site. So when I go and share this on Facebook, what I should expect is a photo of the property, the primary photo. Then it's going to say single family for sale in Key Biscayne, all this. And then there's that little snippet of text that shows up below that, and that's going to be this description. Now, these won't work if you already have open graph tags labeled for description and image in your wrapper. If those are there, you want to get those out so that this function will work for you, or this feature will work the way that you want it to. Now, that pretty much sums up this portion. The next thing that we're going to look at is the XML sitemap, or we should just say sitemaps in general. So to use the XML sitemap, you're going to need a Google Webmaster Tools account. If you don't already have one, now would be the time to set one up. Again, I would not go to this portion if you haven't already taken the time to polish your SEO settings in IDX Broker. The main theme here is you don't want to be playing catch up. And what I mean by that is if your pages have already been indexed and you're going in after the fact to make these changes, you may not see those changes reflect with Google or Bing or Yahoo anywhere from 30 to 90 days, typically. That number could be shorter, could be more. They change so frequently. This is not an exact science. So you want to do this right the first time so you're not chasing after the robot, if you will, after the fact, playing that game of catch up. So for this to work, you're going to need to go to your Google Webmaster Tools account. Once you're logged in, and if you don't know where this is, if you go to google.com, you can do a search for Webmaster Tools, and you'll be able to get here. Now, once you're here, more often than not, you're not going to have any properties in here. A property is your website. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and add a property, and you want to put in the URL for your website. In our case, it's wpidx.co. I'm going to hit continue. Now, I have already verified this as well as my custom subdomain. I just removed them for the purpose of this video. What you'll probably see is that this site has not been verified, and it's going to ask you a way that you want to verify. So you're going to get one that they've got a bunch of predefined methods for you. You'll want to verify using an alternate method is the way I suggest, not only because it's slightly simpler, but it's more uniform. You'll be able to carry this across pretty easily without a whole lot of trouble. So if you verify using a different method or verify using the alternate method, should be a tab to the right. I would select the HTML tag. This is going to give you a little code snippet that needs to go between this code in your head portion on your website. Now, here's where I would say, if you're not comfortable with this, to reach out to your designer or your developer and have them do this for you. Because in some cases, and some themes, and just however your website was put together, this may require modifying that code. In our case, I'm using a WordPress install with Agent Evolution using Equity. So this process is much easier for me. If I go in and I click and I log into my WordPress dashboard, I can just go to Equity, go to Theme Settings, scroll down to the bottom, and I can put that code in my head section just from dropping it right here. Now, in some cases, you may have to actually edit your theme or your head portion of your site, and this is where I stress the most that be very, very careful. It is very easy to break a website doing this. If I put my code in the wrong portion, I could effectively take my site and just kill it, and I'm going to have to come back and modify it. Now, for this one, it is the theme header, but you're looking for this little code, that closing head tag. So if I give myself a new line, I would be fine to put that code here, but I already have it somewhere else in my account, so I have no need to modify this. Again, if this is something that you're looking at, you may want to reach out to a designer to help you put that code in the right spot. Once it's there, then we can go back to Google Webmaster Tools and verify the site. Once the site is verified, you'll get this little green check mark. If you don't see this, you're going to need to troubleshoot that code on your site. Make sure it's there. If you have any kind of caching plugins installed, clear them. Just some basic things there to kind of troubleshoot. The other thing here is that, yes, we have got our main domain verified, but we can't submit the IDX Broker sitemap to this because it doesn't have the search dot ahead of this. And I'm actually going to show you, if we go in and click into this, no sitemaps. So we'll click this little double arrow, and then we'll have this add test sitemap. See, this is prefixed. So if I dropped in that IDX Broker link for my XML sitemap, which I'll show you here in a moment, I would not be able to submit that because it's not here. It's at search dot. So you do need to verify both. Verify this one, and what I would actually do is you could submit your XML sitemap for your main site if you have one. If you're using WordPress, you could use Yoast to generate this for you and be able to put that here. So the other thing that we need to do is we need to come back to the Search Console. We need to add a property, and this time we want to use our subdomain. So search.wpidx.co. Again, I've already verified this, and it's the same method. The way you verify your custom subdomain is exactly the same as verifying your main domain. Once I have my custom subdomain set up in IDX Broker, then I can go ahead and do the same method, use that alternate method, hit the HTML tag, and hit verify. Because it's going to hit that page and be redirected to my home page, which in turn has that code, and it'll verify. Once verified, we can go ahead and submit a sitemap. Well, first, let's take a look at the sitemaps. Those are found under Designs, Pages, and all the way down at the bottom, we have two. Sitemap and XML sitemap. These are two very different things. And let's take a look here. We've got the sitemap. So here's the HTML sitemap. This is designed for users to see, for people on your site to see if they accidentally click onto your sitemap. This is what I would put at the footer of my website or in my menu if I wanted to be so bold. But this just gives me a bunch of links and I can click through these. It'll give me just what's available in that area, and in this case they're rental properties between 0 to 100,000. So now I've got this one. But for robots, code is better. So giving them an XML sitemap is going to make this process easier for them. So using the XML sitemap, we can see here in the URL all of this stuff. Now if we go back to our Search Console Google Webmaster Tools, hit that double arrow for no sitemaps. We're going to add test one. The beginning portion's already filled out, including that trailing slash. That's important to note. So that when I'm over here, I don't want to copy each individual one of these and submit them. Because I can just do this. I can select everything from the I in IDX to the end of the numbers. Copy that. Come back to my Search Console, paste that in here. I want to make sure that there's no leading slash because I already have that here. I'm just going to test this because I do not want Google to index all of my demo information. So we'll just hit test. The test was complete. I would recommend testing yours first just to make sure that there's no errors with your sitemap, that Google didn't have any problems with it. If there is, that would be a good time to reach out to support here at IDX Broker. But in our case, it was fine. And you'll see it says number of children in the sitemap index is 6. What that means is there were 6 sitemaps in the sitemap. It's going to go through, it's going to use each one of these, grab those links, and start indexing them. One of the things to take note of here is once I submit this sitemap, I do not need to resubmit it. As the data refreshes with IDX Broker, this file is updated. That means all of the details pages, if Google went and indexed a page that was in the XML sitemap yesterday, and that indexed listing actually sold the next day, Google will go ahead and check all those links real quick before it goes to go and crawl them, and you're going to see an error returned. It's going to say, hey, this page wasn't found. I got a 404. That's completely normal, and that's what we would expect in a site whose content is constantly changing. So I want those 404s. I want to see that number grow because that shows that my market is active. It shows that my content is constantly being updated and updated correctly. A listing that goes sold that's no longer able to be found on a details page should do just that. It should not be indexed on my site anymore. Some people think that that's not the way it should work. Well, like I said before, SEO is not an exact science. I don't have all the answers, but I would say that content that is updated on a constant basis and daily, and hopefully, depending on your market, could be more than that. But we're looking at a 24-hour refresh period. My site, my index has been updated. So when Google comes and sees that my content has been refreshed in the last 24 hours, it's going to be more interested in that site. So that's important. But what happens here, one of the questions that came up during the webinar was, do I have to resubmit this sitemap every month? No, and that's a bad thing, because if you submit this sitemap more than once, the next time I submit this, I'm basically telling Google to restart. it's going to try and re-index all of those listings again, effectively bringing my index page count to 0 and starting back over. So people who see that their indexing is taking forever, we've seen that they've submitted this XML sitemap too many times, and Google has gone and reset itself. And at a certain point, Google will put that site on the back burner, and it'll take an even longer time for those pages to be indexed because this sitemap has been changed too many times, and they're not building a link base for you. So do not submit more than once. You don't want that counter to reset. And that's pretty much it as far as Webmaster Tools goes. Now, the next portion that we want to look at is responding to responsiveness. The buzzword that we heard back in April was mobile-geddon. So the question is your site responsive? And if it isn't, what can I do to get it there? I would push to get that mobile responsiveness into your sites as much as possible. If your site is not responsive, I would be reaching out to my designer or one of our dev partners that we have and updating your website to a responsive theme, because it's a huge metric now. People are getting ranking based on mobile responsive design for their website, and you want to stand out above the crowd. If your site is responsive, you should be using the mobile first template. This is the template that we have that is more responsive and is probably the most responsive template that we currently offer. And that brings us to our final point. When is it okay to use mobile wrappers? Mobile wrappers and mobile first templates are two separate things, and I'm going to touch on both of those now. So if we go back to our IDX broker account, we can go and make a search and pull up a listing or go to one of our advanced search pages. Let's go ahead and use this results page. Now, if you go to Google and you search for mobile-friendly test, you're going to find this page. I would start with your domain, run an analysis, and see what it says. So right off the bat, I can tell that my website has a mobile responsive design and is mobile-friendly, and Google loves it. So the next part I need to check, what about my IDX broker pages? Well, I'm using mobile first in this account, so I expect, and here we are, awesome, this page is mobile friendly. That means that all of my pages fit on mobile devices, or at least the majority of the ones being used, and I officially have met the criteria with Google and how Google is seeing my site for mobile devices. So now we've got that figured out. I should be using the mobile first template and my site is responsive. If this says that my site is not mobile friendly, it's time to start making some adjustments now, and you're kind of a little too late because we're almost a year into mobile-geddon, if you will, and you might be wanting to revamp the site and really tackle this head on because this is important. The next thing we were talking about are these mobile wrappers. So for mobile wrappers, you'll find that under Preferences, Global Preferences, and then you want to navigate to the Mobile tab. Our site is not using mobile wrappers, and what that looks like is effectively on a device, and let's see if we can get this to load. Let's go back to that results page. If my site was using mobile wrappers, we could take a look at this by adding to the URL the mobile extension. So it would look like this. Not a whole lot of pretty going on. It is responsive. I can resize this and it works to an extent. But what does this look like on an actual mobile device? Well, we have an additional feature in Chrome. We can inspect this, which will give us our developer toolbar. And when I click this little guy right here, it'll take it from desktop to mobile. And on here, I can say, oh, what does my site look like on the iPhone 6 Plus? Well, it looks like this. This is the device display dimensions for the iPhone 6 Plus. But one of the key things to take away from this is my website's menu, it's not in here. Mobile wrappers do not have your site's menu. And that's going to be key in your design decision of do I need to use mobile wrappers or not. Now, if your site is not mobile responsive and you failed that initial mobile friendly test, You may want to have this feature enabled just so that your IDX broker pages get that mobile responsive response so that they rank and are mobile friendly. That'll help you, but they're not going to be getting your menu. And that's where tackling that responsive issue on your site is going to be crucial, because my site is mobile friendly. Using this same view, this is what my site looks like on the iPhone 6 Plus. That's my results page. And what's great is, even though I don't have a menu set up, the menu for my site is still here. It's still accessible and still available to my visitors. So on here, if I click into the details page, I get to keep that. This follows me. So this is a rental that's being rented for $650, and I can just use this right on my phone. I didn't get taken to any other weird branding issues, and I can just navigate along. So that's going to be crucial in the choices that you make. Do I use the mobile wrappers? Do I not use mobile wrappers? Should I be using mobile first? Well, if your site's responsive, I would say yes. Again, a lot of this you can overcome with CSS, but that would be now would be a good time to consider talking to my designer or my developer about getting my site to be responsive. So with that, those would be the things I would tackle. I would look at those. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email. You can reach us either at info@idxbroker.com, or you can send that to help@idxbroker.com. And if you're looking for upcoming webinars, you can find those on our website. I also want to take the time to point out where you can find dev partners that work with IDX Broker. You'll find those under developers, find a developer. And within here, you can find a list of great developers that integrate with our services. And now may be the time to reach out to some of them if you're not comfortable with customizing your site. You could go here and expand this features section and say, hey, I need help with SEO, or I need marketing help, things like that. Maybe I'm looking for some SMS alerts, whatever your decision is. But in here, reach out to these guys and just start that conversation now. If you're looking at redesigning your site to be mobile friendly, maybe that's going to be the route that you take. But I would reach out to a dev partner if you're not comfortable with that. That said, if you're looking for more information or want to connect with us, you can learn more with us at facebook.com/idxbroker. Follow us on Twitter. This will be on YouTube, and hopefully this was insightful. Again, if you have any questions, you can send us that email, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. You guys have a great night.